welcome to this week's edition of The Public Interest. I'm Gomiti Gangren and thank you for joining us. As usual with us this week is the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, His Excellency Brigadier David Granger. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Gomiti.
We are joined by two journalists from the local media fraternity. They are to my extreme left, Ms. Thandeka Percival from Stabroek News and Ms. Shivanie Rampersaud from the Government Information Agency. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
This week, we are discussing economic development through empowerment and enterprise. Mr. President, you often speak of your education, empowerment, equality, employment and enterprise or 5E's development plan. How important is this plan to the overall development of the country?
Well, it's of utmost importance. Only last evening I was at Mabaruma and I see the local government elections as being a springboard for economic development. Of course, it has political implications, but I see that at the end of the elections, we'll be able to have regions where we have municipal councils. As you know, we're creating 3 new townships. And these towns, these regions, these neighborhood democratic councils would have enhanced economic capabilities, not only to administer the communities, but also to encourage economic growth, encourage investment, encourage foreigners to come into those regions and to promote development. So I feel that it is of utmost importance, and this is the way that Guyana is going to be developed, by encouraging economic enterprise, by encouraging investment.
Sir, how important or what roles do you see community-based enterprises playing to develop the country?
Well, the reason I changed the name of the Ministry of Local Government and Ministry of Communities is simply because I believe that stronger communities would be able to encourage or attract the type of development I'm thinking about. Yes, everybody looks for the big gold mining companies, bauxite companies, timber companies, but there is quite a high degree of poverty in Guyana. There are a lot of school dropouts, there are a lot of unemployed young people, and I would like to see the type of economic development at grassroots level in communities where people live, with people getting involved in agro-processing, and small enterprises, and that will provide more employment for young people, and eventually it can provide the bases for bigger industries. You produce fruits, you produce vegetables, you produce milk. You can start thinking about pasteurization plants, you can start thinking about bottling and packaging and exporting stuff. So the communities will be the places where these enterprises start. And I am encouraged by what is taking place in some indigenous communities. You've seen women coming together, producing cashew nuts, producing cassava bread, kazarip, and this is what I see happening. A lot of community-based projects eventually will have a regional and national flavor. So it's like building a wall. You don't build from the roof down, you build from the bricks, and eventually you reach the top.
Thank you, sir. Journalists, you can now pose your questions on the topic.
Thank you. Good day, sir. You've spoken extensively about using these village economies to revive our own national economy. But would you say that it is necessary for there to be, even as we build from the bottom, there's necessary for there to be something bigger, such as a larger investment to create jobs within the communities, and also a larger investment in seeking markets for these industries? And could you say, what is the government and Go Invest doing about assisting with these larger investments to create jobs in the communities and assisting with seeking markets for these industries?
Well, if I can start at the end, I don't see government getting involved in the type of private entrepreneurial activity again. I believe this is a sector that private entrepreneurs should thrive in. I don't envisage government involvement in any big way. We need to attract investors, and we need to create the type of landscape, the type of framework, the type of environment where investors would feel happy, would feel comfortable, feel safe. I think that is the government's job. I don't think the government should get involved in this type of enterprise at this point in time. If the country was safe, if the country had good policies, if investors felt that their investments would be secure and the profits could be repatriated, I think it will help us to walk on two legs. So while we're having community economic development, we could be having large-scale enterprise. For example, this happens in the mining industry. You have big Canadian or Australian gold firms coming in. Nobody prevents them from coming in. But at the same time, you have a lot of small miners who produce, and most of the gold in this country is produced by the small miners. So I don't think the two are in contradiction. I don't know if I'm talking about the same thing, but I don't think small business that I'm speaking about at community level is necessarily going to stand in the way of big investments. People bringing in big factories, doing agro-processing, producing juices, having exports. I do believe also that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will have an important role to play in opening markets for Guyanese products overseas. And I have I put a lot of store in our membership of CARICOM. When I became president, the first diplomat I met was the Secretary General of CARICOM, because I do believe that the Caribbean single market economy will be a destination market for many of these products that we're talking about. So I don't see them being compartmentalized. Communities will fit into bigger projects. Community production fit into bigger projects, and bigger projects could be facilitated by government policies.
Shivanie?
Mr. President, Guyana is a small economy. It has a relatively small consumer population. In pursuing small and medium-scale businesses or enterprise development, what assistance is your government offering to local manufacturers and to allow them to get to the regional and international markets?
Well, apart from what I mentioned just now about the Ministry of Foreign Affairs being a facilitator, it is my view that the Caribbean single market and economy will be an important element in encouraging Guyanese exporters and manufacturers and food processors to gain access to those markets. And it is something that they have to undertake hand in hand with the government. I don't think the government alone can do that. What happens now, for example, in rice, a lot of rice millers are seeking markets all over the world. Many people speak of the Venezuelan market, but we export rice to about 20 or more countries. So that is what is going to happen. That is the beauty of a business, that it is not necessarily government-sponsored. That businessmen want to make profits, and they go looking for markets where they can make money.
Okay, if I may follow up your response the last time. You spoke of creating an environment that is open for external investment and internal investment. Could you speak specifically to policies that you may be contemplating or you have already drafted that can make these things more feasible than they are now?
There have been improvements in Go Invest, and recently I spoke at the launch of Expo, and in a broader sense, I have been working with the Minister of Public Security to make sure that there is a heightened sense of security in the country. So from the public safety point of view, we hope that the effects of our interventions will start to show fruit, start to bear fruit. From the finance point of view, I think the Minister of Finance is looking at the tax regimes as well. Customs, I think there's going to be a review of taxation. There's no change in VAT for the time being. And in terms of business, we will be looking at continuing improvements that we already started in in Go Invest, to make sure that once investors come into the country, they don't have to waste a lot of time or have too much red tape obstructing their access to licenses and other things that they need for development. So at the level of the Ministry of Business, at the level of the Ministry of Finance, and at the level of the Ministry of Public Security, their combined efforts will create a better environment for investors. It is happening in some extractive industries like gold. So I believe it will happen in other industries as well. Once we create the productive base in the communities, which is where I think Gomati started, that we need to assure investors when they come in that even if they're going into something like exporting guava cheese, that they are going to be orchards producing sufficient guavas to support their factories. So that is what I'm thinking about it.
Thandeka, you have a follow-up?
Well, not necessarily a follow-up, but I would like to branch into a different area. When we think of these village economies, there often seems to be a bit of a focus on agricultural industries. Can you say if, speaking of the village economies, can you say if there is a scope or if you've contemplated a scope for things other than agriculture? Because when you speak of regional markets and agriculture, there is a bit of competition from other regional markets. So if we're producing the same thing as other countries, and if each community is producing the same, then we are competing with each other. So can you tell me about what scope there is for differentiation of product?
Well, Guyana, I think, has a comparative advantage over other Caribbean countries in areas, for example, like manufacturing. If, although we're speaking about community-based industries, let us say one community, say Bartica. Bartica is close to a timber producing area, and that timber could be converted into furniture. So we can see furniture, we can see sawmilling, we can see furniture factories. And there are some Caribbean countries which can't compete with Guyana in terms of producing wood. So community doesn't only mean agriculture in terms of guavas and mangoes. It could also mean other commodities. We can have in Bartica again or other hinterland areas, maybe in Linden, jewelry producing. And that could be at a low level, at artisanal level. So there is a variety of things that can come out of communities, and particularly in Guyana. We can do tourism, for example. Some communities in the Rupununi region, Region 9, have an advantage in tourist products because people come from overseas to see birds, they come to see flora and fauna, and like in Igokrama, people look for tour guides. There are expert tour guides, and there are small community-based tourist activities which work quite well in Guyana. So agriculture is one, but tourism is another, manufacturing is another. And I'm sure, from what I know about Guyana, all 10 regions, there could be more community-based industries. Fishing, sport fishing, for example. All of these things could be done.
Thank you, Mr. President. Journalists, we can now move off the topic.
Okay, sir, we were told that there were low voter turnout from the local government elections from the disciplined forces. What is your message to encourage persons to turn out and vote on March 18th?
The performance of elections traditionally has been lower because people feel that look what is happening in the United States at present. Everybody is focused on the big primaries, what's taking place there. So I think that is natural. There's nothing I can do about that. People feel that general regional elections command their attention. The message I would give is that all politics is local. Everything that affects you, as soon as you step out of your door, whether it's flooding or drought, whether it's pothole roads, whether it's safety, whether it's solid waste management, whether it's threat of Zika or dengue or Ebola, as soon as you step out of your door, wherever you live in the country, you're into the realm of local government. And I would encourage people to bear that in mind, that if they don't take control of their communities, of their villages, then they will suffer the consequences of poor management. And this is what happened to us for a very long period of time, where many neighborhood democratic councils were removed and interim management committees were imposed. So in a way, you have yourself to blame if you don't go out there and vote for representatives who can administer your communities, your municipalities, in the way that you want them administered. And as president, I've committed myself to ensuring that elections are held promptly every 3 years in accordance with the Constitution. So it would be worse than sitting on your hands not to vote. And the message is coming a little late for the members of the disciplined forces, but I urge all Guyanese to go forth on the 18th of March, at least Guyanese within the municipalities, because many indigenous communities do not fall under the local government system, and to choose persons who they trust to run their communities. That is my message to them, that these elections are perhaps more important than the general elections because they affect you in your communities where you live and work. That's my message. Go out and vote.
Mr. President, how critical is local government elections to the achievement of the 5 E's that you speak of?
I would see local government elections being a contributory factor in the sense that there has to be work at the level of the central government, of course, things like education, universities, secondary schools, and so on. But at the local level, we're talking about, as Thandeka mentioned just now, jobs, enterprises within those communities. And I would like to see strong neighborhoods, strong municipalities, strong communities, so that people could be invited, investors could be invited to come into the communities to put their money down. Sometimes people in the diaspora who may have some intention of investing say, hey, come back to Better for Acting, come back to Rosal, come back to Port Morant, and put your money into some pepper factory or some internet service or some technology factory or something like that, a call center. So we're talking about a very important development in which the communities themselves, the municipalities, are empowered to attract investors to come into their communities. Once we have a system in which we depend or we have too much reliance on central government, you will not get this type of enterprise. People are going to be waiting for the minister or some permanent secretary to give approval. What we're doing now is creating a system in which the mayors and the councillors can independently invite people to come into their community and promote development. When you read about a mayor of New York or a mayor of some city in the United States or some other country, these people are powerful. They control law and order. They control development. They deal with the quality of water, solid waste management. I want to see strong mayors, strong municipalities, and this is what I want to see after the 18th of March. That's why we've created, 3 new municipalities, 3 new towns, and there are going to be more areas where towns are going to be created.
Thank you, sir. Thandeka?
While in opposition, you spoke often about the need to fully investigate the dealings of drug lord Roger Can. The U.S. has since said that it would be willing to enable access of the government to him. Is this something your government will be pursuing?
At present, we are pursuing investigations into some allegations which are made about the Customs Anti-Narcotics Unit. We intend to initiate investigations into the deaths which occurred after 2000. And wherever those leads take us, we will follow.
And if it takes you to Roger Can, you will follow by engaging him?
That is correct. We need to have a lawful and orderly society. And whoever is accused of committing murders will have to face the law. I'm not accusing anybody, but wherever those leads take us, we will follow to make sure justice is done and Guyanese can live in a country where they could be assured of being safe.
If we may speak of following the law, a large number of audit reports that have been commissioned by your government will soon be made available. Given identified weaknesses within the police force, would your government consider hiring prosecutors from abroad, to prosecute these cases, whichever that might rise?
We have already considered employing additional prosecutors. We realize that there may be resource problems within the police force. There are two major areas. One is called SOCU, the Special Organized Crimes Unit, and there's another fraud squad, I think it's called, within the CID. We are intent on having more investigators and trained investigators. Whether they come from abroad, I cannot confirm now. I cannot tell you that now. I prefer to have Guyanese investigators who are competent and honest. I don't have a hang-up about foreigners, and I would go local first. But yes, we have even considered the possibility of hiring persons who are retired, because, you know, members of the public service in Guyana are obliged to retire at a ridiculously young age, 55. And we think that people who have been retired but who are competent and honest could be re-employed. It's being actively considered.
Shivanie?
Mr. President, if I may go back to the original topic, with regards to the hinterland, one of the major challenges is getting raw materials, or the cost associated with getting raw materials and produce out of the hinterland. Can you say what is the government's plan to assist in any way?
Well, the main plan is an infrastructure plan, and you would have heard me talk about the Linden-Lethem Highway. You've heard me talk about better wharving facilities. Yesterday I was at Burema Wine region, Mabaruma. I spoke about that 80-year-old lady Northcote supplying a region which is 4 times the size of Trinidad and Tobago. So we have renamed the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, because the infrastructure base of this country is inadequate. It is hindering economic development. Yes, we need more roads, we need more bridges, we need better ferries. And these will take time, but this is part of our plan and part of our investment, particularly in that big Rupununi region bigger than Costa Rica. We have to get a highway going through there. And it is only in this way we'll be able to deliver these commodities to the hinterland more cheaply. Right now, every now and then you see a terrible vehicle accident because the roads are so bad, trucks overturn. Read about boating accidents in the riverine areas because some of the rivers are unsafe. Maybe some of the boat operators are not adequately trained or not careful enough. Infrastructure, public infrastructure, is a major issue, and I'm very confident that over a period of years, it's not something going to happen next week or next month, over a period of years, we will have better infrastructure, allowing producers, farmers and producers to get their commodities to market. So it is a long-term plan that we're putting into place.
With regards to the same topic, you said at the National Assembly, in your address to the National Assembly, that 2016 presents new opportunity for Guyana to hasten economic development by diversifying the traditional sectors. Can you expand a little on this? Tell us, how do you see this unfolding?
Well, in essence, over the last 100 years, Guyana has not diversified its economy. It's basically sugar, rice, timber, bauxite, gold, diamonds, and to some extent fish. We have not been able to add value to many of those products. We have not developed an efficient manufacturing sector. As I mentioned just now in response to another question, instead of exporting raw logs, I see that we should be exporting quality furniture. Instead of exporting raw gold or smuggling raw gold, I see people exporting quality jewelry. These are areas of diversification. Using our raw products, raw materials, and we can't invent new raw materials, but we could use manufacturing to create products which add value. And that's what I see, instead of exporting raw sugar, a variety of candy, instead of exporting, fish, we can put fish products, like fish finger. People use there are a lot of fish shops open now in Guyana. Instead of exporting raw vegetables, you can export maybe vegetable products, like chips, cassava chips, banana chips, plantain chips. So we're looking to add value, and that's how I see the economy could be diversified in the short term. Because people are doing it now, but at very small scales, very small scales. We still import a lot of things like pepper sauce. We could be exporting achar, pepper sauce, chutney, because there is a huge Guyana diaspora out there. And I'm sure if any of you travel overseas, people, what did you bring? Maybe a few years ago, people were asking you to take back things, but now people are asking, what are you bringing? And they expect you to bring typical Guyanese products. Many of those things that you want to pack in your suitcase could be bottled, packaged, and sent, marketed overseas. But we need to produce things of quality. But that is the way the economy could develop. And we mustn't always think big. We can think about small products being sold in great quantities, rather than great products being sold in small quantities.
Thandeka?
To diversification within the community. Has the government finalized the plans yet for the workers from the Wales estate who will be retrenched? Will they be given land?
No, I wouldn't. It hasn't. The plan has not been finalized. I think the Minister of Agriculture is going to make some announcements about that, because there are several options. There are plans for the workers to be employed, but the plans for Wales estate, I would not be able to say at this point in time that I have not seen them. I know the Ministry of Agriculture and Gaisuko are working on it, but I have not myself seen them. I cannot say if they're finished, if they're completed.
Would you say what diversification options are being considered?
I can't comment on that now. No.
Shivanie?
Mr. President, the Ministry of Business had held a small business expo. According to the Minister of Business, Mr. Dominic, because it created a lot of partnerships between the small businesses. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think that this is something we should be doing annually?
Well, I think it's something we should be doing continuously. And all development does not have to be state-sponsored. We expect that producers' associations, business associations could undertake these activities themselves and build networks. For example, if I were interested in exporting, say, fruit juice, I could have some type of association with farmers in different communities. It happens now. When you see somebody that can't truck going to one of the markets, they probably collect from several farmers. Some of them come from all the way from Blackbush Polder. And then they market it. Similarly, the small producers could make their own liaison, their own contacts with people in those communities, in those villages. And most manufacturing is based on network. Few manufacturers try to produce every commodity from the farm to the factory. There are other middlemen or middlewomen along the way who would contribute. Somebody would produce the bottles, and somebody may do the actual packaging, somebody may grow the commodities in the farm, other people are providing transport. All of these things are networks.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, ladies. That has brought us to the end of this week's edition of The Public Interest. Do remember to join us next time. Have a blessed day, Guyana.